What's up, everybody? This is Joe here with Joseph Blake Photography, and in today's video, we are here on the very noisy Las Vegas Strip to talk about the new iPhone 16 Pro Max. We're going to talk about photos, we're going to talk about video, we're going to talk about audio, we're going to put it through its paces in some pretty demanding, low-light, diversified environments, and then we're going to pixel peep the video and the photos when we're done. So in case you can't already tell, I'm going to be filming this entire video on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Now, I've had this camera for about a week, and I have been testing it, putting it through its paces, photo, video, audio, all of that. Around the house, the kids, sports. We did some landscape stuff. I took it on a bike ride, right? I've done a lot with this camera thus far, but honestly, I thought the most, diverse, complex, and really kind of opportune setting would be right in my neighborhood. I live here in Las Vegas, so I figured let's head down to the Strip. I am running the 18.1 beta, but I am not going to be discussing any of the intelligence features. This is a review as it relates to photos, video, and the audio that we get when we're making videos. Also, just so you're aware, I am shooting this video on a gimbal. And also, I really wanted to get some 4K 120 of the Bellagio fountains, but they're not running right now, which is a bummer. I guess the city is getting prepared for the F1 event that apparently we're going to have here every year. But it's the Strip, it's always under construction. Walk around blissfully. All right, so we're here at the Bellagio Conservatory. And this space has really kind of seasonal flowers and sort of stuff. And it's really quite pretty, but I thought that it would be a good opportunity just to see how low light and bright performance just kind of dynamically. Walking around the conservatory here, I can definitely see that, honestly, the photos look fantastic on the screen. The video looks fantastic on the screen. Focusing is phenomenal. All that looks great. Obviously, I'm shooting log as well. While I'm shooting myself, I am shooting on the 13mm camera, so we might as well talk about that one now. So the 13mm camera got a huge upgrade in this revision. So we went from a 12 megapixel sensor single layer to a 48 megapixel sensor with a quad layer technology. I think the lens system is pretty much the same. It's still the same f2.2 aperture, but they put a larger sensor there. But I will be shooting predominantly with this wider angle sensor for myself. For most of the sample shots I'm going to be using and the ones that I've just shot in Conservatory, those were all shot using the 24mm whenever possible, because again, that is the new sensor. That's the Fusion sensor, that 4K 60, 4K 120 in log. I think that's the camera that most people are going to be using. So it really is just incredibly noisy all over this town. So as I'm recording, I'll be testing the various settings of the new microphones. But before we get to the mics really quick, I want to talk about this new sensor, right? The 24mm sensor, it is a 48 megapixel sensor, but it has been rebuilt. It is considerably faster, meaning that it can actually pull data off the sensor much faster, which allows it to do that computational photography, that multi-HDR stack, all of that Photonic Engine stuff that Apple is doing much faster, much better, as well as the fact that on the video side, it can actually grab more information per frame, potentially, to be able to correct and adjust and improve. So now we've done some photo and video, both in kind of outdoor bright scenes, which are, to be quite honest, pretty easy. And I don't think you'd notice a huge amount of detail difference between the 15 and the 16 Pro. But now that we've taken a closer look at some of those kind of more dynamic scenes, let's just go into some darker indoor scenes with unnatural light and see how the video out of this 24mm, this 48 megapixel Fusion camera, how it does. And I'll be shooting that both in full Apple pipeline HEVC, and then I'll be doing comparison shots using ProRes log. I guess I would be a bit remiss if I didn't at least show you the front camera, which is unchanged and still way too tight. It's a 12 megapixel camera. I guess it's good for selfies. Okay, last thing I want to talk about here are the microphones. So there are now 4 microphones on this system, and those 4 microphones allow you to do spatial audio. They allow you to do kind of cinematic surround mixing. Yet to see if there's an update to Final Cut Pro that will allow us to actually work with this footage, or how it's actually being embedded in the video. So if you're claiming that it's super cinematic in terms of how it does audio, well, it should give you the cinematic audio tracks to be able to edit later. So stuff we got from here in the Bellagio. Now back to Joe in the studio. Thanks, Joe from the Bellagio. Okay, real quick, I have gone through all that footage. I've looked at every picture. You've seen most of that now as I've done my edit of all of this. And now having had, this camera for the last week or so, I want to just give you my conclusion on the three things that I said that this review would be about: photos, video, and audio as we record video. Photos. I really like the photographic styles. I really like the new camera sensor. I can definitely see an improvement in the quality of the sensor. And we're definitely seeing better quality out of the 13mm sensor with that now quad pixel design. On the video side of things, I don't think there's really a considerable improvement, except again for the ability now to be able to shoot not just at 60, but also at 120 frames per second in 4K. That footage really, really looks nice. And also being able to shoot in 4K log at 60 and 120. Now, that still does require an external recording device or external storage device if you plan on using Apple's Photo app. I used Blackmagic's camera app to be able to record 60 and 120 in log. Unfortunately, I did notice on a couple of instances that I was running into a lot of drop frames. Even after switching from ProRes 422HQ to ProRes LT, I still noticed drop frames both in the 60 and the 120. The Blackmagic camera does, the app does allow you to switch to H.265, H.264 and still shoot in 4K 120 and log, which is really, really nice with the 16 Pro, and not need to have an external recorder. It may be because I'm running the 18.1 beta, I'm not really 100% sure, but I'm gonna look into that and I plan on doing a future video. But looking at both the photos and the videos, what I can tell for sure on the photo side is that the Photonic Engine, the Photonic styles that Apple's putting all these photos through, I think it's really bringing up those shadow areas into an unrealistic space. And then when you take those photos and or video and you process them for, say, a Rec 709 space, a non-HDR workflow space, then you lose your highlights. And so basically you're taking your highlights and you're gonna cap them to, your brightness max for Rec 709 for SDR, and then you've brought up your shadows to here. The dynamic range of those photos is like, it's very minimal. So I've tried to do in some of the edits that you've seen in this video in the review is to really kind of pull those apart and create additional contrast, letting the highlights be a little bit more highlighty, even if they're a little bit blown out, and bringing those shadows down, not to the point where the detail is completely lost, unless it should be, because you shouldn't have detail in a completely black or very shady area, and let those photos look more like they looked to me when I shot them. And again, all of these were shot in the standard photo style, which I slightly customized to be even, I think, less dramatic. On the video side, when dealing with the ProRes log, whether it was in 24p all the way up to 120, one thing I noticed for absolute certain is that there is a warmer tone to the log footage once it's got the LUT applied. I've corrected that just a little bit to better match the original HEVC. So I don't know if that means that the log footage is warmer or if the HEVC pipeline is cooler, but it definitely has a difference between those two clips. The sharpness is definitely higher in the ProRes log, and you can really bring out the highlights and still bring those shadows down. It still looks really, really nice. I much preferred the log footage, but the log footage is 20 times larger. So a 53 megabyte file that I shot that was maybe 3 or 4 seconds long in 4K 60 in HEVC, I shot that same thing 5 or 6 seconds in log, and it was a gigabyte. So you have to really need it. And the external storage really does help with that. So overall, I think the photos look great. I do think they need a little bit of correction. I did notice a significant difference shooting in the RAW format in stills. I didn't see it to be necessary. Now that we're getting 24 megapixel stills out of the Fusion camera, the video looked great. The HDR function really allows you to get the entire tone map without really, you don't blow out any highlights and you don't lose any shadows. It just really does bring up those shadows, I think, into an unrealistic level. And the ProRes looks really good if you have the space to edit it. All right, the last thing that I want to mention is the audio, because that was a thing that honestly I was not expecting as many issues with, and so I chose not to shoot with external audio. I could have easily shot with a lav and a recorder, or directly input it into the camera, but I chose not to. The Blackmagic app actually would have allowed me to use the AirPods that I had in my ears, but it was so loud. So I want to make it clear that I don't think that the iPhone failed in this instance. It's just for what it is, recording on the phone, there's just no way. Even with voice isolation or even with the in-frame setting, I actually found it easier to just leave it as standard and then do voice isolation as you saw in Final Cut. That actually helped quite a bit. But I only did that on a couple of clips. So if you are a creator and you are deciding whether or not you want to upgrade to the 16 Pro or Pro Max, obviously that's going to be dependent on a lot of different factors. But what I'll tell you is that if you're coming from a 15 Pro or Pro Max, you do not need to make this upgrade. You still have log. I would say maybe if you do a lot of wide angle, but I wouldn't necessarily do it for the microphones. I wouldn't do it for the telephoto unless you really want the 5X and you're coming from the Pro. But as someone who was coming from the 14, I'll tell you, the primary reason that I upgraded was access to log, high-speed USB 3 port. Those were my primary factors. So if you're coming from a 14 Pro or Pro Max, I would say yes, it is worth the upgrade. So if you're on that 2-year upgrade cycle, just do it. It's worth it. Because now with the inclusion of this 24mm sensor with the higher quality, 13 with the higher quality, the ability to copy files off of the camera using USB 3, and being able to shoot in log, that pretty much hits all of my needs as a creator on the video side. And on the still side, the stills look great. They're just a little bit better than they were before. Obviously, I've got links down below to these phones, as well as a link to the Peak Design case, which I use on my phone. I got the new one for the 16 Pro Max. Happy about that. I still love Peak Design, even though their bag failed on me twice. They're sending me a third one. So I guess my complicated relationship with Peak Design travel bags will continue. And then the other thing I want to mention, and I am going to be doing a different video about it, this is the Hohem, I don't think this is out yet, actually. This is the Hohem gimbal that I used for that entire video. This thing was cool. It's been a while since I've been like really excited about using a little accessory. This was super fun. I think the only thing that I could have done to make that video easier to make would have been to have an external mic, but I wasn't expecting it to be so loud. I haven't been on the Strip in a while, and honestly, what are you gonna do? Okay, so the iPhone. If you're on a 14 Pro or anything that isn't a Pro, you should upgrade. If you're on a 15, you're fine. That's my professional opinion. If you're interested in more videos that include my professional opinion, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and comment down below on what you thought of the comparison shots and videos that I put in this review. And let me know down below if you do plan to upgrade, or maybe you already have upgraded and you found something specific that you like or you don't like. Let me know down below. I will be posting full resolution files of some of the stills that I took in this review on my website. That'll be up probably a couple of days after this review goes live on YouTube, but take a look for that. And obviously you can follow me on your RSS reader of choice. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.